on the second album, you noticed a couple of country western style tunes, and on the whole, more emphasis on you as, you know, a vocalist, as a focal point of the band. Mm-hmm. Is this like a direction that the band is heading in? Is it something that's going to...
I think so, and probably the reason for that is because most of the songs on the second album are mine, and had been demoed by me at home. So you know, so the direction of the songs was more focused. I mean, it's definitely, you know, more my call, because if you play a demo for people rather than just sort of playing chords on a guitar, then there's an outline of an atmosphere and a direction for it already there. And you know, it makes sense to me that if I write the songs, it's going to be more focused on, you know, on vocals and on lyrics, because that's always been my approach. It's sort of, you know, a lyrical one, and the music just follows the lyrics and tries to hold up the lyrics.
Well, he hears that you have the entire Elton John catalog at home.
That's right. And,
somewhere, yeah.
So back in my hometown.
You were like pigeonholed in sort of a new wave band when you first came out.
Yeah.
As opposed to that type of singer-songwriter.
I tell you, well, I when I was younger, I really wasn't that interested in music, and I thought Elton John was pretty different from the usual top 40 fodder, and you know, I mean, the lyrics, Bernie Taupin's lyrics, were pretty wiggy sometimes. You know, that Madman Across the Water, that whole musical approach, I thought it just sounded really different to me, and that's why I liked it. I mean, incidentally, the whole reason I bought that first album was just because I went into a record store and I thought, gosh, maybe I'll buy a record. You know, maybe I'll listen to some music. You know, it really never occurred to me, and I just did it on a whim, and that was, you know, something that was displayed, so I bought it. And so anyway, I wasn't really that into music, and he was just somebody, you know, I think I'm very loyal to certain artists, and if I like somebody, I'll buy everything that they do until they just get too bad for me to like anymore. But the thing that really inspired me to, you know, that really sort of piqued my interest in music in terms of you know, me actually getting involved in music was the, you know, the punk new wave thing. So, you know, anyway, to summarize, I wasn't, you know, Elton John was like the only thing I listened to just because he was a good songwriter, and the punk thing just made me think that maybe, you know, I had something to offer.
What type of punk and new wave bands that you've been listening to?
Oh, well, you know, the things that sort of first came to everybody's attention, Talking Heads and Elvis Costello and the Sex Pistols and the Clash, and Devo was a big favorite because they were so wiggy. And then I guess, you know, from that day forward, that was the kind of stuff I was interested in. Never like really, I mean, I didn't really like punk so much as, you know, more new wave, like Blondie I listened to also.
The actual music itself, or was it sort of like the mood of just anybody being able to...
I think it was, well, I don't know. I think it was more the atmosphere. I thought the Talking Heads were really great. I actually didn't like Elvis Costello until about the 3 albums in. You know, like him to the point where I would listen to the record all the time. But it was just the atmosphere, and it seemed to be young and fresh, and to have something to do with my life, as opposed to, you know, groups like, God, who was popular at the time? I don't know, Queen or whatever. You know, it just seemed to be like they were really into the rock and roll lifestyle and you know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That just didn't have anything to do with me. I wanted something different, and that's why I wasn't really interested in music, because attitude has always been the primary thing for me. Attitude, and, you know, what are you saying? If you're not saying anything, I'm not interested in it.
Sort of a lion's share of the music making in the band right now. Do you think you would like to kind of have the whole thing under your control? I mean, not necessarily be a dictator of the band or anything. Kind of...
Yeah, well, I mean, that was sort of the intention from the beginning. But I really, when we started, I couldn't really write songs by myself, and you know, I never even thought about making demos because I can play guitar, I can play keyboards. And then after a while I thought, well, I should just do it. I should just see, you know, put the bass line down, put a really simple drum pattern, and mess around and see what would happen. And it turned out that those demos were good enough to be a starting point for the guys to work their parts on. And I would never attempt to write parts approaching the parts of the guys, because I do think they're really talented. But at the same time, if I know what I want, then I want it, and there's no question about it. But I do concede that there's a lot that I don't know about, and that's when I apply to the guys for help. As far as writing songs, there was a couple songs that just in rehearsing for the second album, we started work on. And if I like a thing, then I'll keep working on it. But I definitely want to have my way where I feel like I know what I want, and I don't like to make concessions insofar as that goes. But I do also know that if I'm listening to a song and I think, well, I like this guitar part, but I also like this one, then I don't mind if somebody else makes a decision.
You seem to be going through a lot of trial and error before putting the band together. Was it a lot of trouble coming up with the right members?
No, actually, it really happened sort of instantaneously. And I met Robert at a party, and we just started writing songs together, and we really got along very well, and we became very close friends. And Michael was my boyfriend at the time, so when Robert would come over and we'd write songs together, with a drum machine, Michael would say, "Oh, let me program the drum machine for you." So he got involved in that way. And if we'd be in the rehearsal space, he'd say, "Well, I'll get on the drums and play with you guys." So he fell into place, and we had to talk him into quitting this band that he was in and joining us. But after that, there was the three of us, and we just, Joey's name came up as a possibility for a keyboard player. And he was just a guy that we knew around town, and we called him up and rehearsed with him and sort of decided on it.
Roberto, to kind of reiterate his question here, and what he meant originally was that you seem to go through a lot of different bands and people before finally arriving at Til Tuesday. Was that kind of a predicament to you?
I was only in one band. I was in that band for about 2 years, and yeah, and after being in that band, that band was so underground and so noisy, and it was so stifling in a way, because you were expected to only come up with something that nobody else would think of, like the most irritating sound, the most different grating thing. If you had a chord progression that sounded nice, it was gone. If you wrote a love song, ooh, that was gone. That wouldn't even be considered. So that actually sort of gave me the impetus to, just that was so stifling that Til Tuesday became such a sort of romantic, emotional sound. It was really 180 degrees from this other band. Just that one.
What are you doing in between in the interval there between?
I was there was about 6 months between that band ended and I met Robert, and I was going to join this band called Ministry, and maybe that's what he was thinking about. And I sort of was working with this guy, writing a couple songs, and I was going to go on the road with them, and that didn't work out. But there was something about working with this guy in Ministry. He worked very, very quickly, and his method was just get a riff, stick some words on, arrange it, and you've got a song. Do it really quickly. And the Young Snakes would labor over every irritating phrase. So that I did learn a lot from working with him.
I think you said it was a 6 month interval before meeting with Robert there.
Mm-hmm.
Until that time, you hadn't really made any efforts at joining up with other people other than the band, the Ministry.
No, yeah, that.
You were just
that was because I got involved with this guy, and I thought that I was going to join the band. There was talk of that, and that sort of churned on, and this guy couldn't make up his mind, and then he decided to get somebody else. I was going to be just a bass player, but I actually wasn't that great of a bass player then. So, But no, I didn't. I didn't want to really join up with anybody. When the ministry thing panned out, I thought, well, that's not really what I want to do. I want to lead my band. I want to sing, and I want to write songs, and I want to have my own thing. And what I was most of the songs on the second album are mine, and had been demoed by me at home. So so the direction of the songs was more focused. I mean, it's definitely more my call, because if you play a demo for people rather than just sort of playing chords on a guitar, then there's
on the second album, it's a couple of country western style tunes, and on the whole, more emphasis on you as the vocalist, as a focal point of the band. Is this like a direction that the band is heading in? Is it something that's going to?
I think so, and probably the reason for that is because
as opposed to that type of singer-songwriter.
I tell you, well, I when I was younger, I really wasn't that interested in music, and I thought Elton John. I mean, Elton John was pretty different from the usual top 40 fodder, and the lyrics, Bernie Taupin's lyrics, were pretty wiggy sometimes. That follows the lyrics and tries to hold up the lyrics.
Well, tough to hear that you have the entire Elton John catalog at home.
That's right.
And,
somewhere.
somewhere, yeah.
Back in my hometown.
You were like pigeonholed as sort of a new wave band when you first came out.
An outline of an atmosphere and a direction for it already there. And, it makes sense to me that if I write the songs, it's going to be more focused on, on vocals and on lyrics, because that's always been my approach, is sort of, a lyrical one, and the music just